Convoy of Hope started 1994 officially, but prior to that time I had God had been dealing with me about what I was doing to help the poor. I had accepted a writing project in Calcutta, India, went there, had a private meeting with Mother Teresa, and in that meeting she really challenged me to help the poor. I came back from that meeting and loaded up a small pickup truck with groceries, went into a needy area in Northern California, passed out food to people that day, and told them Jesus loved them, I love them, and there was a church right down the street that loved them too. And that's really how Convoy of Hope started, from a small pickup truck to now a fleet of semi-trucks. We had begun very small, a very humble beginning, and I had been invited to become the editor of the Pentecostal Evangel magazine for the Assemblies of God. They told me that if I came out and was the editor of the magazine, that they would also help us with Convoy of Hope.
My first day in the office, I believe there was 4 of us involved. It started with Convoy out in California. At the time, none of us probably fully understood all the benefits to doing that, not only relationships with the Assemblies of God, but also, I mean, this is a few years before we started getting into trucking and food, not realizing how beneficial it would be to be centrally located in the country. The Springfield area is a major transportation hub, prime trucking, lots of trucking companies. Just being centrally located geographically, I mean, truck can go roughly 600 miles in a day. You draw a 600-mile circle around Springfield, you can cover a good portion of the country being located here. And also, warehousing is, well, the cost of living in Springfield is so much cheaper it was than coming from California. To get a building like this in California somewhere, I can't even imagine what the cost would be, 2, 3, 4 times more than it is here. So God really had his hand directing the ministry to bring Hal out here, and then for us to make the decision to bring the ministry out here, and he blessed in so many ways beyond what we were thinking at that time.
I think sometimes when God asks you to do things that are bigger than you, he expects us to be very transparent and very candid with him. And what we did is we made out a shopping list. We said, God, if indeed you're wanting to reach out to millions of people, these are the things we need. And I actually made a list out on a piece of paper. Said, God, we need warehouses, we need trucks, we need a lot of cash, we need a lot of food and supplies. The warehouse is one of the biggest things that God has ever done for Convoy, because I believe this warehouse became a symbol to people across the country, around the world, that God was wanting to do something on a large scale. The warehouse was made possible by a local businessman who really wanted to help us feed children in Africa. So he reduced the price of the building significantly so that we could acquire it and then use it to help a lot of hurting people. One of the miracles that happened was I was speaking to a group of businessmen, and a man came up, handed me his business card and said, would you pay me a visit sometime? And I did. About a month later, went and visited with him, walked in, and he said, I believe God wants me to give you a semi-truck, and I'll pay for the driver, pay for the fuel, the maintenance for a year. After that, it's your responsibility. So that was the first truck. And then Speed the Light saw that first truck, and they said, we can do this too. And so the young people of the Assemblies of God began raising money to help us buy more trucks. One time we needed $53,000. We needed it within 48 hours. I took out a little post-it out of my desk and I wrote down, God, we need $53,000 within 48 hours. And the next day a guy came into my office without knowing our need, and he handed us a check for $53,000. And those are the kind of miracles that have happened. The mission of Convoy of Hope is very simply that we have a driving passion to feed the hungry through disaster response initiatives, through children's feeding initiatives, and citywide, community-wide outreaches. In terms of the international outreach, that happened when Hurricane Mitch swept across Central America. At the time, we were sitting on about 500,000 pounds of food, and we just agreed among ourselves that we should empty the warehouse and send everything we could down to Central America to help those people, and that was the beginning of the international outreach.
When Hurricane Mitch hit, it was really the first opportunity Convoy of Hope had to get involved internationally, and especially get involved internationally from a disaster response standpoint. It was quite the learning experience for the organization, as you can imagine. When you go from working primarily domestically to working internationally, that's a major step in itself. And then to respond to a disaster of the magnitude of Hurricane Mitch, for us at that point in time was very different, very unusual, and there was a lot of growth that had to happen for us to be able to do that. The other thing that really excites me about growth in outreaches is how we have shifted from just being a one-day event to changing the lifestyle and the culture of a community, where now you can go in and see some of the communities that we have worked in, and churches are continuing beyond that. They're following up on people that they've met. They're doing other compassion or humanitarian events throughout the year.
A big emphasis for us over the last year or two have been our international children's feeding initiatives. We have a goal of very shortly feeding approximately 50,000 children a day in a handful of countries.
Were there discouraging moments along the way? Sure, absolutely. And there still are discouraging moments because you're wanting to do so much, and yet there's at times limited resources or things don't go exactly how you want them to. But all I can say is that when I lifted that shopping list to God, He heard me and He saw that list and began to provide one need after the other, because as I've told people, God wanted Convoy of Hope more than we did.